Everybody's phone's on silent. We're going to go live. In 5, 4, 3, 2. What is up, everyone? Welcome into another edition of Trust the Process Live. What a time it is to be a Philadelphian. We've got Bryce Harper. Finally, Bryce Harper. It seems that may never happen. And then also the NFL Combine just wrapped up, NFL free agency coming along. And as you guys can see, we brought on the big guns to handle it. EROCK, host of the Fourth and Jawn podcast, joining us. And Joe Santoliquito, CBS Philly, and also PhillyVoice here as well to talk about all things Philly. So let's jump right into it, guys. Bryce Harper, after it seemed like he wasn't going to come here, it was going to be the Dodgers, it was going to be the Padres, it was going to be everyone else but the Phillies. It was the Phillies. What are your reactions, EROCK?
Well, first of all, I would call myself more of a casual baseball fan. I'm now excited to get back to the ballpark because I missed it. I was living in Philadelphia from like 2006 to 2011, and boy, what a time to be down here. And just CBP was the place to be, the place to be seen. The fans were excited. If you weren't there during summer, I don't know what you were doing with yourself. Sure. But for a long stretch, man, it's just hard to invest money and time into such a bad product, especially with the amount of games that they play. I, for one, as a casual baseball fan, am excited to go down to the ballpark, see the Phillies, know they're going to be competitive, see what the future holds again, man. It's got that feeling again. I got the fever. I got the fever again, man.
So before they signed Bryce Harper, this was already going to be a good team. The moves they made with Realmuto, with Segura, with getting Rhys Hoskins back to first base, by adding McCutchen, by shoring up the bullpen, adding guys like Robertson, they did enough to make this team competitive. Probably added 8 to 10 wins just on those moves alone. That's if Kapler doesn't blow 3 or 4 like he did last year. Now you factor in the fact that you add literally a bona fide face of the franchise, marquee player in his prime. In my mind, the last time a guy was available at this point in his career, I'm going back to Alex Rodriguez. This is the last time I can remember that any free agent that good was available for that kind of a contract at this point in his career. And don't get me wrong, listen, Machado's a very good player, but San Diego kind of suits his personality. A city where half the people won't be there, they'll be at the beach all day. They're not going to come out to the games, they're not going to be very competitive, but he'll hit a bunch of home runs and probably be a Hall of Famer from their numbers. But when you get a guy like Bryce Harper who embodies what Philadelphia represents, blue-collar, hard worker, a guy who gets it, and then the press conference. I mean, listen, anybody who thought anything negative about Bryce Harper, because a lot of people had, he's a California kid, he's not going to fit in. Then you heard how he talked in the press conference. You heard how prepared he was. You even heard Scott Boras. People argue, well, what's taking him so long? Well, listen, you're thinking about 13 years in a city, literally the rest of your career in a city. You got to make sure you make the right choice. And there were a lot of factors into it. And the fact that when everybody said, because you heard all over the radio last week, he wants this opt-out, that's what's holding him up, give him this opt-out. And he found there was no opt-out. There was no –
it turns out to be the Boras type games that we're all used to,
And that's where anybody who had any negative feedback about him bought him, because they said, okay, this guy literally wants to be here, and he wants to be here to win, and he wants to help, recruit better players to come. I mean, you think Trout in a couple years, maybe. Guys like that matter. And the fact that he chose Philadelphia over all the other cities he could have went to, it does, like you said, makes you get excited about going back down to the ballpark. I mean, listen, the tickets aren't exactly cheap unless you're in the nosebleeds. So you better be going to watch something good or getting Dollar Dog night. This now gives people reason to come out to the ballpark.
Right.
I mean, well, at least whether he actually wants to do those things or not, he's making that good business decision to come here and impress the fans. Like saying, I switched to 3 because Roy Halladay should be the last person to wear 34. Like, all right. I didn't know about you, but if you can respect our city's history before you got here.
He didn't even want to ask Maikel Franco for his number. Like Maikel Franco,
And then AI were 3, so now we're getting the whole okay, what's up with the trade club?
So as you said, E.T., I mean, this whole entire time it was Bryce wants the opt-out after 3. Phillies don't want to get, and that was the big snag. And then it comes out that, I want 13 years. I want to be able to build my brand. As in terms of excitement, Joe, what do you think he brings to the Phillies on and off?
He brings, I was covering that team through half of last season. They had attendance problems. They had attendance problems until the Red Sox came in, until the Yankees came in. So that was an issue. So throw that away. It's got to be a full house every night. They're going to have, there is going to be excitement. But this kind of reminds me, see, I'm a little bit older than you guys. When I was a kid, and I heard that the Phillies had signed Pete Rose. That's 40 years ago. to the year.
Well, there was a reporter who actually made a question about
And that
that
was
as well.
this is a team now that had Rose, Trio, Boa, Schmidt, Boone. That whole infield was the all-star infield. You know, and they had Luzinski, Maddox, McBride. They had the whole thing set.
Yeah.
79, right? Anybody remember where they finished in 79?
They were not a
I
championship.
wasn't born.
Okay. Okay.
I don't remember.
They finished third.
You weren't
Yeah.
born either.
They got smacked around by the Pirates.
I
The
don't
Pirates went on to win the World Series, the We Are Family Pirates, that went on to beat the Orioles in 7 games.
Then they came back the next year.
And they came back the next year and won with Dallas Green and with platoons and with everybody giving in. So here's a team that's got to be competitive. They've got to be better than 80 and 82 than they were last year. This is a team that I see is going to be playing meaningful games in September. But this is also a team that people are going to, one, have to be patient with, which I hope, we're talking Philly here.
Yeah.
The fan base isn't exactly the most patient. Two, it's a team that's going to have to learn each other. Now, granted, it's baseball. It's not football. It's not basketball where everybody has to be in a real over with everybody else. But the fact of the matter is you have a team here that has to learn to be a team. And the other thing you have a pretty big issue with is after Aaron Nola, it's Aaron Nola and still the question marks. So there are some questions there. And that 79 team, after, again, a historic game, again, I remember watching this as a kid, when the Phillies came back, the Schmidt 4-run home run game against the Chicago Cubs, which is an incredibly memorable, historic game. They came back, they won that game, I think it was 23-22, something like that. But that team was never the same again.
No, it wasn't.
After they won that game. And I suppose my point is, you know, nothing's guaranteed.
Well, and like you said about Pete Rose coming in, I didn't catch the reporter's name, but at that introductory press conference, he kind of compared, oh, Bryce, you're making $330 million. When Pete Rose signed here, it was like a record-breaking deal at $800,000.
With the help of Channel 29.
So, right. So what Bryce's response was, well, I took less money per year because there's a guy coming off the books in about 2 years, alluding to that guy being Mike Trout. Is there a more perfect fit for an athlete than Mike Trout in Philly? I mean, the guy comes to the Eagles games. He's in the front row at the Eagles games. I've heard multiple stories about how growing up he was a huge Phillies fan, and oh yeah, he's probably the best player in baseball, if not one of them. Is there a better fit for Philly than Mike Trout?
Mike Trout is almost arguably, when his career going to be done, one of the best players ever. Like, people argue that his stats, his production at this point through his career, he has the best stretch of anybody in the history of baseball at this point in his career. And he's done it the right way on a team that's been mediocre most of his career and still managed to win MVPs. The big piece about it, and this is where Bryce Harper played it right, he set himself up to get the record-breaking contract, which is what Boris wanted, which is what he wanted. But he did it in a way where he didn't handicap and cripple. Everybody remembers when Ryan Howard got $25 million a year and they said, oh my God, they gave him this huge contract. Now $25 million a year is a discount compared to what he could have got when you see Machado getting $30 million plus. And you see, you know, you got to think Trout's going to command $450, at least $450. Now you've got the money to do it. The only thing I'm really surprised about is the fact that, like you said, once you get past Nola, Arrieta might be an average, middle-of-the-road pitcher if he has a bounce-back year and he gets you, you know, decent in a number of wins. But then you got a whole bunch of question marks with Eflin and these other guys. They need another pitcher. Now, maybe they make a trade at the deadline, you know, depending on how bad the Giants are. Bumgarner might be available, and there's a lot of other things to factor in. You know, Keuchel's still out there. You don't know. Do you want a guy plus 30 with a declining fastball? I don't know, but I look at where that team is and the great job that Clintac did, taking that team from where they were to where they are for opening day, and they are a completely different ball club.
Here's a couple things with Trout. I had the pleasure of covering Trout in high school. I did something on Mike nationally for Max Preps, and at the time the Philadelphia Daily News. He's gone back. He's at Millville games during Thanksgiving. He has his house out here, bought his house out in Millville. He spends his off season out here. He has a big acre, huge 10 acre farm or whatever it is. He's very, very much entrenched in this area. He went back, he married his high school sweetheart. So you look at all those factors here. He wants to come home. It's a big deal for him to come home. But the other side of this is Trout's second contract with the Angels. So he's re-signed with them. The other thing about Mike Trout is this. He's a very loyal guy. You know, the Angels are the one that drafted him when a lot of other people passed up. And granted, again, he was the second pick of the Angels in that first round. But this is something here that, do I think 2 years from now he's going to be a Philly? Yes, I do. I feel very strongly about that. But I also feel that there is that loyalty piece. There's that piece of him that I feel very certain of that's got to turn around and just say, you know, hey, maybe, you know, I give the Angels another shot.
We all saw on Twitter just recently, within the last 48 hours, all the reaction of the Islanders fans to Tavares. You're a traitor, you're a traitor, because he went back home to Toronto. By the way, they offered him the most money, so of course that's a phenomenal fit. But when you take a look at a guy like Mike Trout, everything that we were pitching to Harper about the area and the fans, and Jason Worth was saying to Harper, listen, it's a great city to win in. All the things that we were pitching about the culture, the sports culture about Philadelphia, it's already ingrained in that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying they're going to offer him less money or he'll take a home downtown discount, but you ain't got to pitch any of that. With Trout. He's at the Eagles game. Carson Wentz is giving the man balls. He's gone hunting with him. You know his ties here. That part, you don't even have to pitch him on, which is a beautiful thing.
All you had to do is pitch him that the team will be competitive, which they now will be.
Bryce Harper said that Mike Trout was someone that he contacted saying, hey, what's Philly like? I want to learn more about it. You're a guy who I know knows a lot about Philly. And Mike Trout obviously pitched him Philly to the point where he was comfortable enough with signing that 13-year deal. But before we move on, because I didn't say it in the open, we are giving away this beauty here by our man Jordan Spector, who's on the show last week.
Yeah.
He's a U-Science alum. If you take a better look, that is Joel Embiid. Trust the process. It's an amazing piece right there. We'll be giving it away to one fan or viewer who shared the show from last week, so that will be a great piece. But just really quick, touching back on the Phillies, you guys mentioned Dallas Keuchel. Do you think is that a guy who they can still fit in terms of money? Or can they make the money work, and is all that okay?
I think right now what Clentek's doing, I think he's willing to make anything work. And also you have to look at Arrieta, which I have doubts about.
Yeah, he looked
I mean,
very
after Aaron Nola, there's doubts there.
Absolutely.
Regardless, I mean, I know he threw 3 scoreless innings the other day, but I think we all agree he's on the downside.
Agreed.
That's the biggest issue. I mean, it's going to be fun. It is going to be exciting. But you can only win so many 9 to 7 games.
Right.
And that, in the back of my mind, is a little bit a concern. I don't want to come off as Debbie Downer or Joe Downer in this case, but that is the realistic vision that I think people should take a hard look at.
All right, so that's all we have for the first half of the show, but as you can see, we're back here at U-Sciences. It's an amazing, amazing venue. Thanks to our good friend Jesse Phillips, helped us get back in there. Thank you, Jesse.
Jesse.
So, as I said, we are very excited to give away the process, the work by Jordan Spector, but first, we have a quick word from U-Sciences.
University of the Sciences, our students are ranked among the top 10 in the nation for salary after graduation. They are some of the most sought-after graduates in the region. They are innovators and leaders in their fields, and they are proven everywhere they go. If you're ready to excel in healthcare and science, University of the Sciences' new lower tuition makes it easier than ever to get started.
All right, so if you would like to learn more about their proven value leads to proven results, visit them at usciences.edu. And before we announce the winner of our piece here, we're going to get to know about our guests a little bit better. EROCK, we'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about your podcast, Fourth and JAWN.
So I started doing social media. Thank you very much.
Love the
Thank
name.
You. Everybody says that.
Well done.
We're very glad to hear when people say that. I started doing social media for the Philadelphia Eagles, or at least covering the Philadelphia Eagles from a fan perspective back in like 2008 on YouTube, and kind of sharing my experiences as a season ticket holder to Eagles fans, not only who necessarily weren't there in the Philadelphia area, but countrywide, worldwide even, just to show them the little authentic Philadelphia Eagles fan experience. And from there, I spent some time with the Eagles doing some on-camera work for them. And I happened to meet through social media my partner, Gail, Mr. Gail Saunders, for those of you who are loyal to the show know that. We met at training camp, and through that friendship became like best buds and decided, hey, why don't we do a podcast that's a little different from everybody else, where we're not necessarily trying to cover the team or analyze the X's and O's, but really give you the boots on the ground, out in the parking lot, tailgating, fan experience from like dudes that are actually there watching it, and try to share that. you know, a lot of it's opinion based, a lot of it's, you know, analyzing stuff, but it's more along the lines of like barroom discussion where you and your bros are sitting at the frat house or whatever, just talking Eagles football. And it got the attention of NBC Sports last year, and so we partnered with them last year, and we're continuing that partnership this year. So we're excited to not only have the podcast on NBC Sports Philadelphia, but much like you guys are doing here, we're going to be doing a lot of live streaming stuff as well. So we're excited about that.
That's awesome. Joe, you've worked for CBS Philly, PhillyVoice. So obviously a lot of the Philly fans know you for your now infamous piece on Carson Wentz.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit, as much as you're comfortable with, about how that kind of came to fruition?
Very simple question. Walking out from the NovaCare complex after the Eagles lost in early November to Dallas with a whole position group. And I just asked the question, so Mike Rowe's gone after a year. And these guys, almost like a Marine rifle outfit, all like their heads turned around simultaneously. He said, "It's not Rowe, Joe. It's Wentz." What? He said, "It's Wentz. He's messing this thing up." I'm like, I couldn't believe it.
Right.
So I got filled in with some information the following week. Where these guys, they were telling me, I wasn't telling them. And I'm like, some things are starting to add up here. And then the following week, and again, I can't get too much into the specifics as to what I was told, but what I was being told was happening on the field. And finally, I'm like, you know what, let me delve into this a little bit more and a little bit more. And it came to a point where it was from November to December, and the group built up from the group I was talking to a larger group. And most of the stuff was done outside of the locker room. Most of the stuff was done individually. And when I looked at the whole product, felt it was pretty good to go, but this would not have happened without a major piece, a major NFL inside source that basically said, you know, all this stuff's true, and filled in a lot of the blanks. Again, that story was over 2,000 words. There's one quote. And that story was heavily watered down from what it could be. Now, one, wasn't about to give up any sources, and I'm not. That's not going to happen.
I agree.
You know, two, you know, I got accused of, you know, this was seen by millions of people. Again, I can't be specific as to how many people saw it. I'll just say there was a heavy six-figure sum that actually read it.
Right.
And if you read it, you know, the quote in there, and just almost verbatim, they want to see Carson return back to who Carson is. That's said in there. That's stated in there. We want to see Carson go back to being Carson. My intention was not a hit piece. I mean, the one thing, and I've gone on record with this publicly, I've gone on record with this privately, the one regret I have is not letting the Eagles know, giving them ample time. I called them up at 8:20, Monday, January 21st. This ran at 9. Now, something else. Now, here's something else. Now, admit it. I admitted I was wrong. But here's the other thing. Carson Wentz's agent was contacted Friday, January 4th, 3:53 p.m.
Oh.
Yeah.
3 weeks before.
That part was kind of left out. That part no one wanted to touch. Well, Carson's agent got back to me 10:38, and I got everything on my phone. 10:38, Monday, January 21st, 2 weeks and 13 hours after the story was posted.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So that's, you know,
Neither here nor there.
now, 5 leaders of that team, 5 major leaders of that team, I was in touch with between the hours of 9 and 11 that morning, Monday morning, January 21st. You okay?
I know, I'm sorry. I'm like, it won't come out. I'm sorry. I know. They're like looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm so sorry to call.
But here, there's 5 leaders on that team, and I'm going to leave their names out of it because it would indict them as well.
Right.
They had a chance to reply. Not one of them did. They didn't endorse it.
But they
didn't condemn it either.
down either.
They didn't condemn it either. So, so am I happy that I did it now? Well, I was not happy because I didn't want to turn around. Carson Wentz is not a bad guy. Actually, Carson Wentz is a pretty good guy. People have the impression I'm out to get him. There was things that I've written in the past, like the Eagles just became the Cleveland Browns. That was written before Carson Wentz was even drafted.
Right.
So that was, but people also, like, for example, last year, the Maxwell Club dinner, going into the Maxwell Club dinner, there were 2 or 3 pieces, glowingly positive pieces that I wrote. That was never brought
about
up.
that.
So I'm out to get Carson Wentz. I'm not out to get anybody. And the way it was worded to me from the people that I spoke to is, and this was a big deal to me, these guys entrusted you with telling you these things. You can't let them down.
Right.
That was a big deal to me. You can't let them down. And to me, again, you know, we're dealing with faceless, what individuals felt were faceless, voiceless people inside that locker room that felt they needed to be heard.
Criticism,
That was a big deal. You got a guy that wields a lot of power. And I'm saying Carson Wentz is a good king. I'm not saying he's a bad king. But I'm also saying he's 26. And I'm saying maybe, and Wentz admitted himself too, which kind of like,
Big
the
stuff.
thing that was interesting is I got an avalanche of stuff at me, criticism, this and that. Some of it deserved. Now I'm a big boy, I'm okay with that, you know. But my house was vandalized. I got death threats.
Terrible. Not good.
2 police departments were involved. I got a lock on my Twitter account. I don't even know how to put a lock on my Twitter account because I had law enforcement monitoring my Twitter account.
Oh my gosh.
As I was talking to a police officer, my Twitter account was actually being hacked. As I was talking. He's looking at me. The phone's down. The phone's down. The phone's here. The phone's here, and I have my hands up. And the officer goes, "Joe, what the f are you doing?" I said, "I'm not doing anything. The phone's right here." He goes, "Because all this stuff was popping up."
Right.
I'm not.
Let me ask you, Joe, because this is a little bit of an interesting roundtable because I didn't know Joe was going to be here until yesterday. So this is going to be a little. This is a little interesting
So you got
combination.
more of a notice than me.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
As a fan, from a fan perspective, because reading the article, there seemed to be a pretty clear-cut, audible, negative Carson Wentz undertone, at least from the reader's perspective, from my perspective. Do you think the gripes in the locker room have less to do with Carson Wentz's personality, because it really seemed like personality-driven, right? Had less to do with that and more to do with the fact that A, Carson was coming off an injury, B, he was injured again, C, they were on the struggle bus. I mean, you take a look at any team, I would put good money down that right now there's 6 individuals on the Green Bay Packers who look at Aaron Rodgers and say,
more than 6, but
that guy's a J.O.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or that guy's selfish, or he's not a team leader. Do you think it's more the fact that they were struggling and playing below expectations, especially coming off of a Super Bowl when you're trying to defend, or do you think it was more, it's definitely Carson Wentz's personality?
I think it was the struggle. If, again, you read it. Remember the end? Remember the final quote?
Yeah.
We're waiting for Carson to be back to Carson again. That was a big deal. Now, and I mentioned to these guys prior to us going on the air, I know far more about this story now than I did in the process of collecting the story and collecting the information on the story. I have valid information. It's right there. I saw the clip. Carson Wentz was in so much pain in early October, he couldn't sit
Yeah, I've seen that.
prior to the Minnesota game. Okay.
Yeah.
He's throwing. He's he's warming up, and he's on. And I'm not going to repeat the comment, but he was.
I've seen it too. Yeah.
Okay. So there was a lot of struggle going on. What that struggle spilled into was, and this came out in 2 or 3 emails that I was sent again after the fact. He was in pain, he was ornery, he was standoffish. Again, if you read the story and you read the quotes, he wasn't himself. He wasn't himself. He wasn't himself. And that was there, and that was stated in that story.
I'm going to piggyback off that a little bit. How much of that falls to a combination of the coaches rushing him back? If you recall, early in the season, they had Foles available to play. And everybody said, you know what, they're trying to get Carson out there because you invested high in this kid. You get him second. He had a monster year the year before. People argue he should have been NFL MVP. And now you've got him coming off the fact that Nick Foles won the Super Bowl, the backup who's now going to be the starting quarterback in Jacksonville. And people wanted to see if Carson was going to bounce back and be that guy to reclaim with all his skill set what he was. And he came back too soon. We've seen it happen often. Guys come back too soon, they stay injured, and then they get injured again, and he was forcing it.
Now, this is where the selfishness thing came in, and Carson admitted that too. But this is the interpretation again. I'm the conduit. This is what I'm being told.
Yep.
Dude, we're relying on you for paychecks, man.
Right.
You're our guy. and you're playing in these freaking BS games in October, late September, early October, where you should be sitting your tail down, getting yourself even healthy, getting yourself straight, getting yourself as close to 100% as you can, right? That was perceived as selfishness, and I understand it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying I understand it and where it came from, right? And again, I'm the conduit. I'm the faucet that the water is flowing through. I'm over here like, where do you guys get this from? And the way it was explained to me was just, again, we needed him in November and December. We needed him then. Not in October, not in September, not playing these BS games. I don't know if you're allowed to curse or not doing this. Oh, I won't. I'll try to be as professional as I can, regardless of looking like a schmuck. But and no one can't say I don't laugh at myself. I do that quite often. But we're playing in these BS games. Well, no game's BS. Every game means something in the NFL. Right. But their point with me was we needed him in November and December, and if he took the time to come back closer to being who, again, stated in the story, and the guy's quoted as saying this, who he is or closer to who he is. We would have seen that version, and we'll ride that ship. Not one person I spoke to wants this guy to fail. No. And again, that was stated in the story. Everybody that I spoke to, they want him to succeed. They want him to be who he is. Last season, he wasn't who he normally is. And again, that was stated in the story. He needs to turn around and know when to say when. That also has to be on him. I'm 26 years old. I need to turn around and take that step back before I could take 5, 6, 7 steps forward. And again, what was stressed to me was he was so hell-bent on making his move, making his mark, doing something that, you know what, and I could see it in his human nature, and he's admitted that. He's all admitted that. Here, the backup won the Super Bowl. And Nick and Carson, they really, there's respect. Yeah. They love each other. Again, in the story, stated across the board, right? But psychologically, it drove him up a wall. It killed him. It did, yeah. And here again, and think about this, it's just common sense. What I did was, again, a lot of people knew what was going on. Yeah. And if you think about this, Peterson himself admitted during the combine, what I was told, there was a Wentz faction, there was a Wentz faction. Right. And there was a false faction. And were guys pissed off? Yeah. And like I said, I got 5 other guys that are serious leaders of this team that were crawling up my butt. Not so much with the fact that that stuff was out there. Well, yeah, that the stuff was out there. But now we got to deal with it. Right. That was their gripe.
Now it's public.
That was, that we have to deal with this. And I got cursed out by somebody, and I don't blame them. I mean, that's their guy, and I understand them backing him up. I'd back him up too. Right. I'd be pissed off at a guy like me too. But here's the deal. When I came back at that individual and says, hey, listen, where am I wrong?
Where's the
was
lie?
there not?
Where's
was there a
the
situation?
lie?
Was there a situation? Was there a situation after you guys? And I'll be blunt with you. The November loss, it was the New Orleans loss.
Right.
Peterson puts it out there. Whole team together. What's accountability mean? Right. And the one very, very important individual and a part of this story. No answer.
For what it's worth, I was told that the rushing back, as far as the knee was concerned, and the back was mutually exclusive. Right. They didn't have one that like Carson Wentz. From what I was told, that Carson Wentz's timetable, he was due back. The stress factor, you're right. I think it was the Tennessee game where he got hurt, and then he couldn't sit.
Right.
Like he.
But here's what I was told by medical people, and I had to again. The story was watered down. I had to pull the reins in on this, but the knee and his immobility, again, these guys kept on hitting it home. He wasn't himself. He couldn't be the guy he used to be where he's escaping, the Teflon ginger, and I meant that in a complimentary way because he was, I mean, think about it. You couldn't tackle. Right. This year, you could tackle. Mm-hmm. And his inability to get away led to the back. It led to him hurting the back.
Plus, the offensive line wasn't necessarily playing as well.
Agreed.
The running back situation was very, very thin.
Yeah, nobody
there was a lot of, and there was a lot of agitation going on in that locker room this past season. A lot of it, and it was brought up to me, and it's rightfully so. It was brought up to me. Well, you were there with Carson. I was literally standing right behind Carson Wentz, January 14th, that Monday when they were cleaning out the locker rooms. I did a number of season-ending stories on the guys and things. Literally standing behind him, and Marcus Hayes, who's treated me exceptionally well. I mean, Marcus has been very, very fair to me on a lot of different fronts. Marcus made the point, he goes, you were there, why didn't you ask him anything? Well, one, you had so many guys there. And I'm sitting on this. Wasn't exactly going to show my hand. Hey, by the way, Carson, there's some guys over here that think, this, this, and this. And the antennas go up. I wasn't about to show my hand. But number one, number two, more importantly, I didn't have the big green light, the big hammer, till that night. I get a return call from a very, very major part of this. I was on the phone with for 2.5 hours. And they were like, hey. And I told them everything. I told them, this is who I'm saying it. This is who I'm hearing it from. I'm hearing it from this, and this guy. And this individual, to my surprise, turns around and goes, oh, that's right.
So if you want to ask your own questions, if there's something that we did not touch on, if you want to ask Joe or EROCK, make sure you share and comment on the show. But before we get into the second half, it's time to announce the winner of The Process is what the piece is titled. So in honor, after we got 53 shares on the show, in honor of Bryce Harper, he's number 3. We went with the 3rd share, and that is Roberta Batts. Congrats, Roberta. Got yourself a beautiful piece of artwork from Jordan Spector, U Sciences alum. And we're going to move right on now into the NFL Combine. Current student, Jordan Spector. So, NFL Combine just wrapped up. Who were the biggest standouts of the 3-4 days?
Besides Batman?
Who's Batman?
Metcalf.
Oh.
Hey, did you not see the
even know if he's a
comparison
human
of
being,
Batman
man.
when they put his whole body type up next
He
to
reminds me
Batman?
of Sean Oakman when the Sean Oakman meme was there and he's standing, he's all muscled up. That dude is unreal. He ran a 4.43.
He's a monster.
Or 4.33, excuse me, 27 reps on the bench press, 40.5 vertical. The one thing that really stood out to me, though, his 3-cone drill and his shuttle drill, slower than Tom Brady. What type of sense does that make?
Right, because he's all speed, no agility. And I'm a hit on this, and people aren't going to like it. The kid's a physical freak, and that's great, and that's wonderful.
Michael Moore was too.
And I was about to say that. So he's so great, but nobody outside of Mississippi heard of him before this combine. And he played football
Due
at
to his
Ole
neck
Miss,
injury as well, he lost half the season.
which also factors into how high are you going to draft a guy
down as
coming
well.
off of a neck injury who's only played 2 years at the collegiate level to put up some significant stats. I understand it, but there's other guys there that are great. Yeah, he's a great athlete, and that's all wonderful and well, but athlete doesn't necessarily project to play on the field. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, he's the son of
Terrence Metcalf, who was a guard.
But not the grandson of Terry Metcalf, who I grew up watching as a kid with the Cardinals. No relation there. He was a great, great player. He was number 21. He was a two-way player.
So do you even think, are you one of those people that think the combine don't matter?
No, I'm not saying that the compound doesn't matter, but
Let me hear it. I
but
wanna
what
hear
I am
this.
saying is I would take a guy who actually produces on the field against quality competition over a guy who has a great combine. Mike Mamula had a fantastic combine. How was his
As did
NFL
Jamarcus
career?
Russell.
And so did Jamarcus
The
Russell.
stuff that matters at the combine,
Stuff with
we
the ball.
ain't never gonna see. Now, granted, it's great for us football fans that want to get, we just need some football. We need a taste. It's like an addiction. It's great to watch these dudes in shorts run 40 times. What the teams are really there for, when they're watching the drills, they're using it as a verification system. The book's already out on them. They already got the book. So if they see something that's happening in the combine, dude runs a little slower, runs a little faster, and it kind of opens their eyes, all they do is take that information, they check the tape that they already have on the player to verify it. The stuff that matters, the interview process, all right? The medical, big, you know that, big on the medical. The stuff that really matters at the combine.
And the psychological. I understand.
Yes.
Seattle had a guy in mind. I forget the name.
Staring
But yeah, he just got
15 minutes. Who does that?
Well, I was listening actually to the radio today. They said a lot of the reason why they do that is that nowadays the players are so versed in what they're supposed to say. You don't.
Yeah, they're coached up.
Yeah,
They're
it's
coached
tough to
up.
glean something from that conversation. So maybe if you throw, and sometimes they go a little overboard and
they
ask
do.
some inappropriate
the
questions.
monkey,
Yeah, you
the
know,
monkey
what y'all
wrenches
doing
that
at
get
night?
thrown in are pretty insane, and some of them are very like studies to prove it, to back it up. Like they're very calculated, and other ones are just like, yo, throw him off. And
Jeff
they
Ireland,
are.
Des Bryant,
Some of them
Miami
are
Dolphins.
not okay, and then other ones are pretty
Never forget.
impressive, actually.
They put more resources in researching that kind of stuff. than
Well,
do
they
actually-
should.
And as
They
should.
don't.
Because you're
You'd be
dumping
surprised.
millions upon millions of dollars into a hand of a young man.
Yep, very
Like
Well, the
We'll have
mentals
so many
make-
comments.
how old are
That's
you
so many
guys here?
comments.
I'm 23.
23?
I'm almost 40.
All right, so I'm 37.
I'm
If you
26.
gave me that kind of money when I was 21, 19, dude, it would have been a disaster. Like I'm not the same dude that I was back then. So yeah, exactly. So you've really got to dive into the psyche, into the family atmosphere, who he's hanging out with, background checks. They'll dig into tweets that you had when you were in
Oh, you
8th
see
grade.
that
and
all
bring
the
that
time.
up.
But
Yeah.
that's
What's this
not.
about?
That's less about like who they are and how much like they
They've
will have to
matured.
defend that person. Like if they're going to dig up tweets, like let's say like going to dig up like racist tweets, and then
But
they
that's
know
true.
that their fan base
But-
is going to like find it, then they want to handle
Not-
that stuff because there are guys. Let me tell you, there are guys in the NFL right now who are into some questionable things, and like they're not. The NFL's
By
not
the way,
worried
intern
about
with the
it.
Tampa Bay Bucks D-line.
Shut no. Shut up.
Just to-
No.
just
Stop.
to-
Shut up. No.
Okay, not Tampa Bay Bucks
Revealing the
anymore.
sources.
I would say not while I'm commenting. Please don't remind anyone.
Okay.
So, shh. Anyway.
I just want to, before he gets into
No.
deep into past his depth.
Shh. So anyway, there's only so many things that like the NFL is actually really going to defend against, and really it's just about their personal brand, like that individual organization. So like, and it's not like the whole NFL is doing it. It's like the Bucks are doing the Bucks, the Eagles are doing the Eagles. We're two completely separate companies, completely separate organizations, and so they are not necessarily checking like, oh, what is this like? What's this like? What's your support like? Because they are going to give these, these 21-year-olds all this money, and they're not going to give them any financial literacy about it. Like they're not going to help facilitate any of that. So they're not really worried about it. They're trying to make sure you're not going to do something insane before you get there.
But it's also an opportunity, like your quarterback, Carson Wentz. You're standing up in front of the podium.
What are you going to say?
Someball throws you that, boom, that curveball. All right, you're at the combine. Hey, here's a tweet from 8th grade. What's that about? Now, how are you going to react to that? Maybe I don't care about the tweet. Maybe I don't care what's written or the substance behind it. I'm looking at your reaction and how you react to something that was asked that you didn't have time to prepare for, because I know your agent been coaching you up. I know you hit all the talking points. You've been looking in the mirror practicing all this nonsense. So I'm gonna throw you something that you never thought I had on you, because now all of a sudden your mind's thinking, well, what else they got?
Or they do the opposite. They make them so comfortable and let them divulge all this crazy stuff about
There's
them
all
by making
sorts
them
of stuff
so
that-
comfortable, and you're just like, oh, why would you say that?
So when a dude's in shorts running a 40, I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Darius Hayward Bay,
And it's great. It's
overdrafted
great
off
for
of a-
TV. It's great for the NFL.
It's great for ratings,
network and all
yeah.
this other stuff. But I love what LeBron James said on the shop there this past thing. I have to be more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's basically a test of all these young men that are coming out. They have to learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because the NFL world, the whole NFL world, between media, between teammates, between trying to please 63
Groupies,
guys, which
fans.
the whole thing,
It never
being
gets
comfortable,
comfortable.
being
And-
comfortable, or learning to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
It never gets comfortable. I
And-
can let you know. It's weird.
Joe, so you're familiar, all of us here are familiar with the Eagles. Do you have any specific guys who maybe Eagles fans should keep an eye on?
I'll tell you what, I like Nasir Adderley.
Yeah, Delaware
he's a
product?
young man from Great Valley, coached by a friend of mine, Danny Ellis, former Virginia standout. It did incredibly well. There's a reason why, no disrespect meant to Delaware. I'm a Temple guy, but no disrespect meant to Delaware.
To you.
But here's a guy
Stop it.
that
Way too many people
could have
in this
went
room.
could have went at a larger level, and we found out at the Senior Bowl just how good Nasir Adderley is. God bless Malcolm Jenkins. I wish he plays till he's 50, but there is some wear and tear there. Malcolm's 30 now. Rodney McLeod's a little bit banged up. But the thing that scares me about the Eagles, maybe EROCK can join in with this, and all you guys, is that they think they're this close to going back to the Super Bowl. And I don't think they are. No. Fletcher Cox just got a toe operated on it, something like that. So it's going to take him for a while to get back. Brandon's got to be back maybe
Guard.
got to be back mid-October.
Right.
Do they think that?
And it takes a full
Well,
year.
they think it's going to be sooner. This deal with the
Do they
Phillies.
think they're like
that
close?
big? Right. They're-
Yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit longer. For Brandon's sake, he should take his time. Again, take your time.
rush
Come
back.
back when you're ready to come back. Don't push something, because there's a possibility you're going to get hurt even more. You have the deal with Jason Peters. Jason Peters right now, he's a Hall of Famer. He's all those good things.
You almost have to
but right
keep him,
now,
though.
he is what? He's a 10-game, 12-game guy.
Yeah. And not
What'd
even
you
a
say?
full game, like 2.5, 3 quarters. He doesn't finish games at all, and that's a problem. To speak
Khalil
directly
Mack.
to speak directly to your point, Offensive line, defensive line are two areas of concern. You've got Brooks, you've got an old Peters. Yeah, Kelsey got paid, that's great, but why did they re-up Isaac Seumalo?
Well,
Because they
yeah.
need to shore up certain things on the O-line.
Well, also, he was also a master of none. So now that we
Correct.
can put
He
him
can
back
bounce all
and,
over the place.
and keep him at a left guard and leave him there,
That's
like he
fine.
can actually perfect his craft. So like, that's okay.
To go on the flip side, you got Timmy Jernigan, who people liked his first year here, not as much last year because he didn't play very well and he was injured and has a bad back. If I'm looking at the Eagles and where it is that they go, a name that people probably forgot about last year, Houston's defensive tackle, Ed Oliver. Now, listen, he was a highly productive kid, didn't necessarily get along with a lot of things in the scheme, but a high motor, a big energy guy. Reminds you of a defensive tackle version of Brandon Graham, who they just re-upped again. You're looking for a guy that's going to be able to play alongside Fletcher, who's, granted, he's in the prime of his career, but he ain't going to be in his prime forever. You don't think you're going to keep Timmy Jernigan, who's behind them at that point.
Well, and unfortunately, I think Oliver, he's such a talented player. He's going to end up probably going top 10. He's very explosive and has the measurables to do that. I think if you're the Eagles, you start maybe looking along the defensive interior, as you said, and go with one of the Clemson guys, very good at run stopping, and would fit nicely into Fletcher Cox. But speaking of the D-line, moving into some free agency talk now, Brandon Graham also got re-upped to the tune of what was it, like $40 million?
$40 million for 3.
So they've
That was
now
huge.
invested in
That was
Brandon
huge.
Graham. What do you guys
That
make
was
of
huge. That was huge because of Brandon, and Brandon's like a big old teddy bear. Brandon, I just, it's weird. You're a media person, but he's hugging you like, man, I'm going to miss you. I saw him one time down to the season. I'm down at Ruth Crest, and I get a tap on my right shoulder. I'm looking over, and it's him over here on my left shoulder. And next thing you
a good
know,
impression of a
I'm
laugh.
waiting.
That's
I'm waiting for my.
Yeah, that was a
I'm
good
waiting
one.
for my bill, and I'm where's my bill?
He picked it up.
Wow,
Really? Yeah.
He's that guy. He's that guy.
Yeah, I
He's
just
that
and
guy.
they were there with the whole defense, and I'm like, and that's Brandon Graham. It would have really bothered me if they let him go because of
AT has
everything that he does
Friend of the program.
Yeah.
on the field and off the field. He is someone that brings people together, and this team's going to need some people. They're going to need some people like that to bring this team together because it needs to be Carson Wentz's team again.
ET has
And
a
even
serious bromance
and even from a
with
production
BG.
point of view, you look at what he brought to the table in terms of his production. If
And
Howard
he was
lets him
hurt
go to
last
free
year.
agency,
He was hurt last year.
all the big guys have come off the board or have already gotten franchise tag, which means he would have commanded significantly more than the $40 million that he got from the Eagles to stay. But the thing about it, loyalty. He wanted
to
to
come
finish
back.
his
That was a
career
big
here.
deal,
He
yeah.
wanted to be here. You got to pay that. He's 31. You'll pay him out the rest of his career. Cool, great. It works out for everybody. Good
So,
signing.
well, you can go ahead.
A lazy football fan will look at his stats
Right,
and
he
see
had
the
like 4 or 5
sack
sacks, yeah.
Not
and
the
say
hurries.
that he's not worth that kind of money. Name me a better defensive end at playing the run.
Right. He's so effective.
He's so effective. His pressures are unbelievable. But to piggyback off of what you said, it is absolutely, he's one of those glue pieces. Things can unravel quickly. Like they think they can win a Super Bowl again. I think they do. Yeah. But you're not going to be able to do that unless you have the proper leadership. What was the one common theme when they won it in 2017? Howie spoke about it. Laurie spoke about it while he's holding the trophy up on stage as the confetti's green and pouring down. He talked about the locker room.
I've never seen a Philadelphia
so
Eagles locker room
important.
so together like that.
Brandon
team was.
Graham is a guy you need to agree
and
with
it
you
has
need
to.
in that locker
It's a
room.
locker room that has to come together.
And so 100%, especially as you would know.
Yeah. Not that I'm not saying it was dysfunctional.
Right.
But I'm just saying that there was people. Carson Wentz needs to get the confidence of a group of people back. That's
I
all.
think
And
winning
they think
it-
it's there. They think it's there. It just has to come back out again.
I think winning and not throwing the ball to Ertz 25 times out of 28 will help.
Well,
So we're actually up against it here. So I'm going to kick it over now to our producer, Sean, with our upon further review question. Sean, what do you have for us?
Sean.
Thanks, Jake. To start us off on Upon Further Review today, we have the best GM in Philadelphia in the sports that actually matter to this show. Is it the Eagles, the Phillies, or the Sixers? What do you guys think?
I'm going to let the guest go first.
Yeah,
I'm feeling argumentative.
after what he's done and the revamping of this team, and even though again I still say it's baseball, but it has to come back as a team. Matt Klentak.
Rank them for me. So you got Clintek at 1.
Okay. Klentak,
Pressure's on.
Billy King.
Billy King.
I'm sorry. What Elton Brand. Sorry, Elton. Elton's my man. Elton's my man. Clentech, Elton Brand, Howie.
Wow.
Fletcher still has to do some things with the
Fletcher has to do a lot of things.
Well, he has my boy, he has my son
He's
Carter.
such a nice
You know,
guy.
at the cornerstone, he has Carter Hart coming, and again, that's you see what they're doing here with Gordon and what they're building here.
Howie's
But
third, though.
Howie is third.
Howie's
third on my list,
Here's
too.
something I didn't know, and this is something that was crazy. I did a piece on Elton Brand. I'm sorry, Elton again. I did a piece on Elton 3 weeks ago. And I'm looking it up, and this is after the big trade and everything. And the NBA's Executive of the Year award has been in existence since 1972. No 76er executives ever won that.
Really?
Ever.
And he
Ever.
should win it.
While they were executives of the 76ers. Right. The Colangelos have won, both the son and the father, but whatever. Forget that. But no Sixers executive has ever won that. And Elton Brand has a very, very strong chance of winning that. What he's done and how he's created this team. It's just a matter of them doing what they're supposed to do.
Rolls me right to my point. Elton Brand is number one. I mean, anytime you come into a team that was coming off of a dysfunctional previous GM in Colangelo with what we now call, social media gate. Listen, Twittergate, you call it whatever you want, but you bring in Elton Brand, who most people thought, and I was guilty of it, saying, listen, if he doesn't make moves, he's basically going to be a yes man, because you didn't know what to expect. He was working out there with the D-League affiliate, and you just didn't know what you were going to get from him. But to see him come in and literally make chicken salad out of chicken bleep. I mean, literally, he gave up Dario and Rocco and Markelle Fultz and turned that into Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, Boban, and some other guys. You can't find me two other GMs in basketball that would have done that this year. You can't. Because nobody would have told you Jimmy Butler for Rocco and Sark and said, okay, yeah, let's do that. Because there's no real win in that from Minnesota. And I mean, you look at it,
well,
it works.
until Jimmy Butler was trying to leverage his way out of there, then that was the win.
How
Fair.
can you guys? I just don't
We know Rocco's your friend.
understand. Yes, Rocco is my friend, and I miss him very much. But I don't understand how all these people are so far ahead of Howie when no one else is proven. Like, unless people are like winning their own personal championship, like what's popping? Like until the Phillies go back to the World Series and we have a 2008 parade all over again. Are you kidding? One? No way. Elton, listen, cool, we got Jimmy Butler here, but they have a lot to work out. That locker room, they are still not one team. Like, they still, whatever, they need to figure it all out. Like, there's a lot to do there. So until they are all, like, synced together and meshing well, like, I'm not seeing how that works.
So how would you rank them?
Howie.
Go ahead.
And then Elton, and then
So I'm gonna tell you why I don't give Howie the nod. Howie's been the GM or president of operations for how many years? How many? How many years were the six? I mean, sorry.
Are you going to count
she does make a point. He did win a Super Bowl.
He did win a Super Bowl, and that's fair.
Are you going to count the years where Chip ousted him?
No, we're not going to count the
drove
years
us
where
into
he
the
was in the
ground.
closet. But I'm talking about how many years was he in place where people were screaming, "Hey, they need a wide receiver," and he kept pulling out guys that just were not very good.
but
They
also,
need
but
this,
also
they need
we
that.
talked about.
Years after years.
I'm saying, but we also talk about how many times, like, where does the power also stem from? How much do they let the GM be the GM, and how much do they not? And so when they gave it back to Howie, they said, "Listen, Howie, you figured out this is your thing. You do it, or you're fired." What did he do? He won us a whole Super Bowl. He wasn't close. He didn't get us to the playoffs. It wasn't like, almost. Nah. He won us the chip, and something that we have never had before, ever. How is that possibly getting you to be
Reed was Howie the
third?
GM, and then they brought in Chip, and all of a sudden they looked great. The argument I'm making is sometimes
They brought in Chip, and we looked great.
That first year they did. Before
That
offense with Vic, they looked really good.
Before we got dismantled? Okay,
Come
cool.
on, EROCK, am I
No, you're
lying?
right.
First
The
year
show was
with
also
Vic,
still there for
EROCK.
that.
Go ahead, EROCK. Who's your?
Sorry, my bad.
Obviously an Eagles bias, so I'm not going to
No,
deny that.
don't dilute it by saying bias. Nah, say what it is.
But thank you, and I agree with you.
I was like, don't worry about their
First of all,
feelings.
Howie Roseman, first and foremost, should be at the top of the list
Well
because
done.
he did win that championship. Not only that, but he's a GM who learned from his mistakes. Chip Kelly was a Howie Roseman hire. Howie Roseman was chomping at the bit to get that guy, and ultimately it bit him in the end.
Screwed him.
Howie Roseman's the guy who brought in Doug Peterson. Howie Roseman's the dude who did the double jump to go get up Carson Wentz. Howie Roseman's the guy who signed guys like Patrick Robinson, LeGarrette Blount, veterans on a budget to go ahead and help and leaders with rings to help them get a championship that we're not just about a little over a year removed from a Super Bowl parade. What Elton Brand is doing is phenomenal. Hinkie orchestrated it.
Oh my God.
All right,
No,
hold
no,
on.
no,
Let
no,
me just
say
make
what
it.
it is.
Hinkie orchestrated it.
We striking there?
Colangelo tried to F it up, and Elton Brand is putting together, because a lot of casual fans like myself, I'm not talking about people who were deep in the process, but people on the outside, and people were wondering, okay, when is this done?
Right, when are we gonna start winning?
When's the finished
Yeah.
product? And what he put on paper is a phenomenal team, is a finals caliber type team.
Caliber.
But the paper don't
Right.
mean who got. You got to do the
Right.
damn thing.
Right.
I think that they can.
Caliber schmaliber.
Howie already did it. I think Elton Brand's well on his way to do it. Clintock's not done with his process.
Right. Well
He's
done.
2 years away from finishing that. He's well on his way. And then the Flyers, they got to get their crap
All right.
together.
So let us know
What
what
is
you
such a
think. Go
nice
out on
guy.
social. Make sure you comment. Let us know where you rank them. But guys, we're going to move right into tap outs. We'll go right to left. EROCK, you can start.
Well, I know this is the part where we just say our piece and
You normally let ET start.
I was really hoping that the Eagles, and maybe you've got a little bit more information on the inside than I do, I was really hoping that the Eagles were going to discover a way to take an asset like Nick Foles and be able to flip him for some sort of value. I've seen Howie Roseman do more with less. I think the biggest hurdle upon that was the overall getting him underneath the salary cap, and the overall and the question that'll be forever asked is the juice worth the squeeze? So if the Jaguars are offering a third, do you really want to move pieces off the team all in the name of a third-round pick? I don't think it's for a lack of trying to trade Nick Foles. I think at the end, it just wasn't a smart football decision. If they truly wanted to do the right thing by Nick, if they truly wanted him to choose, why'd they even opt in to begin with? So they could get $2 million back? Joe, do you know if that counts towards the salary cap or anything?
I don't know about that, but
I haven't heard
have
anything
in the
about
back of
that.
my mind, and I'm not saying this is anything based on fact, but I don't know if the Eagles got the $2 million from Nick. I think it's one of those. The impression I had.
And that would kind of, I would agree with that,
you've done
considering how many
everything
times
what
they've
you've done
taken,
for us.
how
What
many
you've
times
done
they've
for
taken
us.
care of him, both after the Super Bowl, kind of restructuring the contract, and he fell short of those incentives, and they still gave him the $1 million. Nevertheless,
By a
if
snap,
your
by like one
intention,
snap.
if your intention was to let him walk to begin with, why'd you even opt in? I think they tried it, it didn't work out. And they just decided to, hey, we're going to do the right thing. Of course, that factors
right
into
thing.
it,
Yeah, do the
and
right
let
thing.
him go. And to Nick Foles, God bless you, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
And no matter what uniform you're wearing, as long as it's not Giants or Redskins, but as long as you're in the
whoa, you got
Jaguars,
one.
we will be supporting you, unless you're playing the Eagles. Then all bets are off.
ET?
You forgot the Cowboys.
I'm not going there.
Yeah,
So,
Nick's not going.
So I want to
I'm
talk about
just
something.
saying.
I don't know if anybody else noticed, but the groundhog was supposed to have done whatever it was supposed to do to tell us that winter was over. Yet we got snow like 2 days ago. I'm confused. Why is it still cold outside? Where's the springtime? I'm waiting for it. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm tired of being sick. I'm tired of
The
whatever.
snow makes me claustrophobic.
I do like the fact that it's starting to get lighter past 4 o'clock at night. I can ride around 5:30 and still see like the sky, so that's great. But hurry up, spring. That's my tap out.
Wait, why did you laugh when I said the snow makes me claustrophobic? It does.
You want to talk about it?
I don't.
I'm going to skip right over to you.
Yeah, I don't really have a tap out.
No?
I'm just
Other
happy
than
to
the
be
snow
like,
makes you claustrophobic.
I'm just happy to be arguing and not like hosting.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like normally I don't get to. I'm sorry.
Can't wait till football season.
No problem. Like yeah, I can't wait till football season. It's a lot. If I'm here, if I'm not here, it's because I'll be somewhere.
Somewhere. Right.
Yeah.
Doing
So
something.
cross your fingers for that, because I'll be somewhere.
All right. Here we go.
I got a twofold tap out. One, young man I literally watched grow up before my eyes, who was acquitted this week. Young man I know very well, Sean Open. I go way back with Sean, so I'm excited about that. Acquitted for sexual assault in Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
Know the hell he's been through, and it's amazing what he's been through. So, hoping that he gets another chance. He's lost 35, 40 pounds. He's not nowhere near as physically ripped when he was at Baylor, but he did graduate with his degree, has a degree from Baylor, and hopefully, step by step, he gets himself together. And then in closing, I watched, I don't know if you guys saw the HBO thing with Michael Jackson.
I didn't get it.
It's deep.
It's
really,
been a
really deep.
combine.
Yeah, Neverland.
Yeah.
It's nasty. They talk to these kids about what they went through, and it's just sending a shiver up my spine now as I say it. I turned the channel because I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But it was, and this is another case of people see him or people saw him with all these children around him. And like Harvey Weinberg, like 3/4 of Hollywood knew what that guy was doing. And it's like, here's a powerful rich guy, you look the other way. You look the other way, you look the other way. You know, here's a very powerful rich man who people may have had suspicions about, and now suddenly, you know, why the hell didn't I see this? And it's, I think part 2 is tonight, and then Oprah Winfrey's going to have a special there with the 2 children, now they're grown men, that Michael Jackson molested. And the director, yeah, it is deep. Allegedly. It is allegedly. But no, these guys are on camera talking about some things that no one wants to hear. Right. But it's like I said, it's deep, and it's worth watching.
Can I give you a quick tap out? Yeah. Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you for
you guys on live. You guys on live see this. Right. I see that.
Yeah.
And they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys. They're doing it right here. Yeah. So I'm impressed. Yeah, I'm impressed. And thanks for having us.
Definitely love to have you guys back. So much. Thank you for you scientists for their beautiful venue. And thank you
Jesse.
For watching. Jesse's going crazy back there. That's all that we have for you. Thank you for watching My New Philly, where something's always new
and everything's always
Philly. Give me jump shot.
Oh, I should have saved my paper.
That's okay. It's all right.
You're right.
Do it. Hey.
Give it bumps.
Right,
boom.
Thanks.
Boom. Good
Thanks.
start.
Thanks.
Great show, guys.
Love you.
Yeah, we definitely gotta get a flick. I know he rock out a run. Great for you.
Way better than
Way better than last time.
Great show, man. Great show.
Great show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. I appreciate it.
Hey. Let me peek at what. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, husband.
Let me peek at what you're looking at.
Yes.
Like you were breaking news during your middle run. That was amazing. It was just like everything that I really wanted. Like,
Guess I'll wait for my husband.
Granted, NBC's got all this shit for me, so I don't even pay. I don't even pay. But this is
how you do it yourself.
This is how you do it. I'm a guy. I'm not sure if you know me. I'm a guy. Adamant about it. Do it yourself and do it the way you want to do it, and then do it so well that somebody else can do it.
It's coming out,
Yeah, don't fucking let anybody tell you that you can't stick with it. You do it because you know it. This is